Hello and welcome to True Crime Rocket Science, the most authentic voice in true crime. Based on Kaitlin Armstrong's LinkedIn profile, we're getting a better idea about the 34-year-old fugitive from Texas. She attended Stevenson High School in Livonia, Michigan. She has a Bachelor in Business Administration, specializing in finance, from Eastern Michigan University. For 3 years between 2007 and 2010, Caitlyn worked as a mortgage banker in Detroit, Michigan, and that was for Rocket Mortgage, the same company tasked with selling 2825 Saratoga Trail. It used to be Quicken Loans. Caitlyn's backstory may be relevant in the search for her, and so investigators might want to look at Michigan. Michigan is also close to the border with Canada. From Detroit, Caitlyn moved to Royal Oak in Michigan, where she worked at a private bank called Fifth Third Bank for over a year. In July 2012, she moved to Austin, Texas, and worked for 2 years as a mortgage officer for PNC. She may have started her own business after that as a principal for Armstrong Financial between 2013 and 2017. At the end of the same period, she worked as a mortgage consultant for a Los Angeles-based Union Bank. This may mean her own business, if that's what it was, Armstrong Financial, failed. If she moved to LA or, if she was working, moonlighting in another job. Between 2017 and November 2018, she worked as a mortgage consultant for Bank of the West in Santa Monica, California. Now, bear in mind, Mo Wilson moved to San Francisco, California in 2019. Caitlyn lists her current job as Chief Financial Officer or CFO for Dynamis Racing. Now, I thought it might be a company sponsoring her boyfriend because he's a bicycle racer, and it looks like it is. Dynamis Racing was incorporated on the 6th of January 2017. It's a domestic limited liability company. The jurisdiction is Texas and is based in Austin. It also lists Caitlyn's boyfriend Colin Strickland as the director. Just out of interest, there is also a Dynamis Racing yacht crew from the Detroit Yacht Club. At the same time, she appears to have been moonlighting as a yoga teacher. In sum, over the past 12 years, Caitlyn has lived a somewhat itinerant lifestyle, just in terms of working all over the country. She's lived for an average of 4 years in 3 states, Michigan, California, and Texas. This familiarity with other states may make it very difficult to find her. Now, in terms of her having an alibi, remember I said I thought I was missing a page from the affidavit? Well, it turns out I was. Thanks to Jennifer for directing my attention to this, and we're going to deal with that page after you guys have subscribed to the channel if you haven't already. So if you're new to the channel and you're interested in this content, we're going to be going through it day by day, going systematically and selectively through it, dealing with the social media and so on. So if you're interested in that and you haven't subscribed, make sure you do like, share, leave a comment, and let's get started. So this is that missing 6th page. It's actually the 3rd page of the affidavit, and I thought that the word after break would have been up. And here it is. Here's the word up. And so I'm just going to read this page. After the breakup, he met the victim, Wilson. Wilson and Strickland then had a romantic relationship before Strickland ultimately began dating Armstrong again. So here you have a very strong sort of binary opposition. When he leaves Armstrong, it is to go to Wilson. When he leaves Wilson, it's to go back to Armstrong. And bear in mind, she's the CFO of his company. So they are, in a way, joined at the financial hip. I also think part of the nature of these kinds of relationships is one person's fairy tale becomes the other person's nightmare. When he's with Wilson, it is Armstrong's nightmare. When he's with Armstrong, that's Wilson's nightmare. So Strickland said that while he and Wilson were dating, Armstrong called Wilson on the phone, telling Wilson she was the one who was dating Strickland, saying, "I'm the one with him." Strickland told Detective Spittler he has had to change Wilson's name in his phone so Armstrong does not know who he's speaking to. as they continued their relationship. Strickland admitted he had to change Wilson's name in his phone because Armstrong had blocked Wilson's number in Strickland's phone. So that is kind of a big red flag, that his girlfriend had taken his phone and blocked his former girlfriend's number, if you want to call it that, former fling, but blocked her number on his phone. And so he insisted on putting her on his phone under a different number. Strickland also advised he has had to delete text messages on his phone to prevent Armstrong from finding them. So although this is acknowledged, I'm not sure whether he talks about it being an on-again, off-again relationship. Anyway, Strickland says that he picked up Wilson on his motorcycle, this is in terms of the alibi, on the day of the murder, May 11, 2022, at about 5:45 p.m. from Cash's residence, and they then went to the City of Austin Deep Eddy Pool, located at 401 Deep Eddy Avenue, Austin, Travis County, Texas. Strickland stated after swimming, he and Wilson walked to the Pool Burger, located at 2315 Lake Austin Boulevard. Now, I think it's quite important to just speculate, what did they do at the pool? Did they just swim? Did they train? What were they doing at the pool? What do you think? Strickland advised that after they ate, he drove Wilson back to Cash's residence on his motorcycle and dropped her off. Strickland advised as he arrived, he did not observe anyone nearby and noted the garage door to the garage located underneath Cash's residence was closed. Strickland advised he did not go inside the residence and promptly left after dropping off Wilson. Strickland advised he drove his motorcycle northbound through an alleyway until East Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard. Strickland advised he stopped his motorcycle and sent a text message from his phone to Armstrong at 8:36 p.m. This text message stated the following: "Hey, are you out? I went to drop some flowers for Allison at her son's house up north and my phone died. Heading home unless you have another food suggestion." And so it says in the affidavit, Strickland had lied about his whereabouts to Armstrong to hide that he was with Wilson throughout the evening. Now, I give him kudos, I give him credit for admitting to the authorities that he wasn't telling the truth, right? In other words, for being open and transparent about, to some extent, his subterfuge in terms of his girlfriend, right? Strickland advised after they ate, he drove Wilson back to Cash's residence on his motorcycle and dropped her off. Now, I think one of the questions that comes up is when he wasn't home, was Caitlyn home? Did Caitlyn arrive home to find him not there? And then what happened? Strickland, because she knew that there was a big event coming up and probably suspected that Mo would be in town. Strickland advised he rode his motorcycle home and arrived at approximately 8:43 p.m. Now we know at that time, at about 8:37, 6 minutes earlier, Armstrong's vehicle was basically where Mo was, right? In Maple Avenue. Strickland advised he sent another text message to Armstrong around this time and recalled being nearby his residence when he sent it. Strickland went into the garage, so when he sends these texts, he's not home. But I don't think she's home either. Strickland went into the garage and began working on his bicycle to prepare for an upcoming race. While in the garage, Strickland sent another text message to Armstrong at 9:21 p.m. In other words, he sent at least 3 text messages to Caitlyn, and it appears she didn't answer any of them. According to the affidavit, not long after he sent the final message, the third and final one, Armstrong arrived to the residence driving the 2012 Jeep Grand Cherokee with a large bicycle rack mounted on the trailer hitch of the vehicle. A luggage rack was also mounted on the roof and chrome around the windows. Strickland advised Armstrong was the only occupant inside of the vehicle. So there's no witness to say we were somewhere else kind of thing. Throughout the interview, Strickland spoke very highly of Wilson and her accomplishments. Strickland advised Wilson was a professional cyclist and was assisting her with obtaining new sponsors. So whether or not they were in a relationship, they were certainly in a kind of friendship relationship where he's actually helping her get sponsors based on his network, right? Strickland referred to Wilson as the best female cyclist in the United States and possibly the world. When Strickland described Armstrong, he referred to her as a participant at bicycle races while he is a racer. Strickland stated he told Armstrong in the past she does not need to ride with him because she holds him back. So you can see that there's a sort of a esteem, a status, where he holds Wilson in much higher regard, certainly as an athlete, and bear in mind that's how he identifies. He self-identifies as an athlete, and so he holds Wilson in very high regard compared to Armstrong, who appears to also want to cycle and cycle with him, but feels not good enough. And that, I think, is the thing that's going on here, is she feels like she's not good enough. She feels like she's being displaced by this other person who's also an athlete. Strickland advised Armstrong normally feels as though he's grumpy while training because he has to wait on Armstrong due to her not being able to ride at a professional level. So this is obviously a gripe in terms of their relationship. Then the final paragraph of this page that I wasn't able to source until now, Detective Spittler asked Strickland about the vehicles in the driveway and who owns them. Strickland advised he owns the 2002 BMW motorcycle and owns the 1998 Mercedes with a Texas license plate. Strickland advised the other vehicle, the Jeep Grand Cherokee bearing Texas license plate LDZ 5608, belongs to Armstrong. Strickland advised he does not drive the Jeep and only Armstrong drives it. So I think it's interesting that the affidavit also makes a point about establishing whose vehicles are owned by whom. And I guessed right, that she drives the Jeep and the Jeep is the more expensive of the three vehicles. Just based on the vehicles, which is admittedly a crude way to gauge their finances, it doesn't appear the couple were doing terribly well. And this would have been a stressor. Page 3 of the affidavit suggests Caitlyn did not have an alibi. Interestingly, at the same time Strickland sent these messages, it appears Caitlyn didn't respond to either of them or any of them. So the question is, what was she doing while these messages were going through? And was her phone on when he sent his texts? Strickland said he left Mo at 8:36 p.m. and when he arrived home about 7 minutes later, Caitlyn wasn't home. Neither was her Jeep. She arrived home less than an hour later, just after 9:21 p.m. What was she wearing? What was her demeanor? Was she carrying a bag? Did she immediately go inside and take a shower? Strickland doesn't say. We can also see that the distance from the place where Mo was staying on Maple Avenue and Strickland's home on Fort Clark Drive is about 15 minutes by car. And I think that makes sense in terms of the timeline. 15 minutes from the home in Fort Clark Drive to Maple Avenue and back is half an hour. And if Caitlyn drove there and back, it appears there's still a 20-minute hole. And one's got to ask, where was she during that time? Thank you for listening, and I'll see you guys next time.
I don't really know what comes next. I'm just doing my best, even though I'm so stressed out. Everything just feels like a test that I fail, so depressed when I can't seem to get out.